All right, Elliott Franklin, here from Fortitude. You're in Nashville.
Yeah.
Look at that. We're here. I finally made it.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's fun. I've had a lot of fun. We just finished up with our boy, Don, and now we have you, which incidentally, you introduced me to Don.
That's right. Yeah, like the Three Stooges, but yeah, there's another one.
Is there another one?
Yeah,
Who's the other one?
Roger.
Oh, gosh. I'm meeting him later.
That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and you're wearing the dope jacket, looking super fly, looking like a boss. Yeah, and it's so nice to be here. So how long have you been out here?
Yeah, moved from Texas to Nashville in 2018. So it's a great place to be. Love it.
You love it out here?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I love obviously born and raised Texan, but here they actually have 4 full seasons, so that's nice. In Texas, it's just pretty much hot year round.
It's like just hot.
Yes, that's right.
Do you enjoy like being here because it's like Music City and everything like that?
I do. It's interesting back in Texas and San Antonio. I never really took advantage of a lot of the touristy things there, but here, yeah, it is nice. I mean, the events downtown, it does afford you a lot of opportunities that I probably wouldn't be able to do, otherwise. So it is nice.
Something different for sure. But you're involved in everything, right? The RSA stuff, this thing, that thing. You're wearing a black hat next week.
There's a lot, yeah. I mean, it's great to be involved in the community because Middle Tennessee has got a phenomenal, security and IT community. So it is great to be plugged in and give back, and help try to mentor folks.
What's your favorite one?
I would say the ISSA. I mean, I've been doing that forever since back in Texas, and just the connections you make there, and the mentor, my mentor that I've still got, just retired after 40 plus years in the business. And I met him in San Antonio as president of the ISSA chapter there. He's still back in San Antonio. So, yeah, it's that's probably my favorite one. I mean, RSA obviously gives you access to things you wouldn't have access to normally, being on that program council and kind of seeing how they work.
Yeah, you kind of have to have some kind of like a connection with all people, right?
Yeah, I mean, they say it's 7 degrees of separation, whatever. I mean, cyber is especially tight-knit. So when you're looking at products, you're looking at problems, being connected to those folks certainly helps, yeah.
It's probably like important you go in and like when I'm meeting with someone or you're meeting with someone, it's like, how are you going to get in touch or how are you going to talk to your peer group unless there's these chapters more or less everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we've had problems with certain products, very well-known products, I mean, somebody in the group's like, oh, yeah, I know the CEO of that company. I'm like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, I'll just introduce you. You can just call him. And I'm like, are you kidding? So, I mean, not that you need to talk necessarily to the CEO of a huge cyber company, but if you are having some challenges, it certainly helps.
It helps, yeah. I mean, I think like sometimes just having someone on the other end of the phone, and that's one of the problems with a lot of companies actually, is that the cyber companies, you'll need to get in touch with someone, but how do you get in touch with them, right?
Yeah.
What, are you going to add them on LinkedIn and then say what's up? I mean, sometimes that's the only solution too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, yeah, I'm certainly not a bug bounty person, but I have discovered some bugs and some things as I'm working, and you're right, I just have to, sometimes you'll just reach out on LinkedIn, you're like, is this person ever going to respond? But having the network, you can just tap somebody and say, hey, do you know this company? And there's always connection. So
do you usually like, I mean, I'm sure you enjoy a lot of the cyber side of things naturally, given that you've been doing this. But like, tell us, like, how did you end up at Fortitude? Because technically it's a Carlisle-owned company, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually through ISSA. I mean, I was at an ISSA meeting. Somebody that worked at Fortitude stood up and said, hey, we're hiring our first ever CISO. And I was like, are you serious? And so I was working at a company in Atlanta, and so I was commuting there, and I prefer to be in person. And so I was like, I can come into the office every day, and started chatting with them, and a couple months later got the gig. So it was great.
Wow. And now you've been there for?
A little over 2 years. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
You like it though? It's like
I do. It's, I've never done financial services before. Yeah. And so it's, I've done every industry before that, with higher ed and healthcare and manufacturing and hospitality, but hadn't done financial services. So there's a different level of stress.
Stress, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
What is the, because it's so interesting because everyone has a different perspective on this. Like I have a friend, colleague, we'll call it customer actually, but he's a CISO of bank, Luminor in Estonia. But what would you say is like your uniqueness factor in being an FSI and in this in Fortitude space?
Yeah, the great thing about the space that I'm in is technically since we are reinsurance, I don't have any customer data because we are, we take blocks of business from, and reinsure other insurance companies, but we don't have to have the actual PII to make those decisions. But obviously, we still have intellectual property with modeling data and things like that we have to protect. So, you are, a little more well-known than potentially, if you're in manufacturing, other things. People don't know who manufactures glasses for, certain companies because it's so deep in the supply chain. But here, I mean, we make our deals very public on purpose. And so you'll see it all over the news. Hey, you just made a $5 billion deal with XYZ insurance company. And so that could potentially make you a target. So that's always a concern.
Okay, because you think that the Fortitude name may come in the news, or
Well, because they know, yeah, it is exactly when there are these big deals. Hey, you just did a $10 billion deal with, so-and-so, now I know you've got that money. Let me come after me. So
yeah. Do you think that because you guys have a little bit of a different architecture, right, than most companies?
We are. I mean, since we're a startup, and if we can still say that after 7 years, we are 100% cloud. It's architecture. This is nothing on-prem. It's still a threat. It's just somebody else's data center. But I do like that we are fully virtual, fully cloud-based. So that certainly helps.
But this is when you say 100% cloud, I think people should probably understand it's completely virtualized.
Completely. Even the employees' endpoints, it's all virtual desktop.
Yeah. And then does that help?
I think it does. I think that it shrinks the attack surface, and so I think it helps. But again, we can't be naive and think that there's.
But did it start with you, or did it start before you?
No, I cannot take credit for that. Yeah. So while I'm the first official CISO, certainly there were some staff there that were designated that before that did the architecture, that did the design, that went with the virtual concept from day one. When the company was started, it founded and split off from AIG, the decision was made. We're going to be fully virtual.
Fully virtual. That's pretty crazy, huh? I mean, that people are okay with that. I guess the speeds are internet speeds are fast enough now where it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, it does. I will tell you, some employees, when they come in, it is a challenge in terms of they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And they may not like that. They're used to just getting a corporate laptop. And so it does take some kind of convincing to some of the team members, and they've got fancy spreadsheets and things they need to run, and being able to outfit their virtual desktop to be able to run that, can take some work.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons, essentially.
There's trade-offs like everything. Yeah, and there's a constant balance. People are always, wanting to say, hey, we need to go to corporate laptops. But I think if you look at companies, a lot of companies are actually moving to the virtual desktop model for numerous reasons, especially working at home.
Yeah, I've seen of course, not gonna lie, I would say probably 80-ish, 90-ish% probably utilize the physical laptop, some of them, but then there are a handful of companies that definitely use this completely virtualized concept, at least for a subset, if not all their employees.
Yeah, think about, I know when I worked in healthcare, I mean, it was all virtual terminals. Same thing with hotels.
Yeah, hotels.
It's all virtual terminals. They don't need to have full devices. They can use dumb terminals. So I think there's definitely a place for it. And I see credit unions, you go into banks, a lot of them are using dumb terminals as well now. So virtual terminals. I think, like I said, from an attack surface, I love it.
Yeah, it's just only that one application.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that most of your uniqueness, does it drive that cybersecurity strategy at all, or what makes it different?
I don't think it changes the strategy a lot. I mean, like most folks, we follow the NIST cybersecurity framework. So, you're still going to look at your risks. You've still got servers. They're just in somebody else's data center. You've still got SaaS applications.
They're still there.
You still got email for phishing. So I don't really think it changes the strategy that we take for cyber.
Do you get a lot of, I mean, it's a silly, stupid question, but do you get a lot of phishing emails?
Oh, of course. Yeah, very targeted. It's, with AI, I'm sure it's helped, but yeah, we get a lot of phishing messages.
You get a lot of phishing messages on what's there, and I mean, I'm assuming that you catch them, that's why you know.
Well, we certainly catch as many as we can, but we still do try to do our training as well to train folks on what to look for.
Yeah.
It's a cat and mouse game. Some of the folks are really good, and the social engineering in general now, texting and the other stuff.
It's just kind of, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely an evolution of time. Yeah, have some coffee, of course. It's what we used to do maybe 10 years ago may be different than what you do now. What would you say is the focus difference between that and today?
Well, for us, I think it's now the SaaS vendors. Is now we're buying tools to give us visibility into the SaaS players and how they're securing your environment, because we depend on SaaS companies so heavily. And that's out of our control for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that was new to me, buying a SaaS security posture management tool that can go out and validate and verify, what we're saying you're doing in the contracts with these SaaS providers. Do we know that you're securing our data? Yeah, you can give us a SOC 2, you can give us your pen test executive summary, but this is actually, plugged into your environment through, via whatever webhook API, however it is, to tell us if you actually are, securing our data in your SaaS environment. So that's something that's a little different.
Than what you would typically be doing.
Right. I mean, if you're doing most everything on-prem, if you're doing DevOps and you've got everything in-house, I think that's a slightly different model.
Yeah, it's I think that when a lot of this developer side of things is another security area that obviously has a lot of conversations about it. So the developer side, then there's the, kind of the internal IT side as well. those are the kind of two areas of the cyber.
Yeah, I mean, you got the folks with GitHub and everything, and open it up, leaving their code open and exposing keys and things out there. And so, again, that's another, area attack surface.
But you guys develop a lot of stuff yourself too.
We have some DevOps internally, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So then you have to go in and figure that part out as well.
Yeah, that's a different mindset. You think you've got kind of application security, even though we don't have an app per se. We don't have any external facing, website. Yeah, but still internal development, and still if that's being done in GitHub and that's left open, it's obviously a hole.
So then when you came in, how did you take stock of everything? Like what was like your 30, 60, 90-day plan?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same that I do most every place. And that's just, you do your own, I'll do a NIST self-assessment and try to, there's plenty of spreadsheets out there where you can kind of rate yourself on the different NIST categories. And it's just, honor system, question and answer with the different business units, and kind of peeling back the onion there. And I know a lot of folks, when they'll come into a job, they'll just be overwhelmed. They're like, oh my gosh, you're not patching, you're not doing anything. Where do I start? And you've got to put together a roadmap. I've done quite a few sessions on the road mapping, and just pick 3 things, look at the NIST, look at the criticality and how much, bang you can get for that.
Yeah, bang for the buck.
And especially if you've got existing tools that aren't being utilized. When I came in, they had a ton of phenomenal tools, name brand. They'd gone out and bought all the name brand tools. But if they're not, implemented correctly or not being monitored correctly.
But what would be something that's like not implemented correctly? I mean, I know it's a silly question, but like what would that
well, to take, for example, your EDR software on the endpoints, you can install it.
Yeah.
But it's not set it and forget it, depending on the company that you go with. You've got to configure it, you've got to tune it, you've got to turn on, updates for it as well.
Right.
And so if you come in and it's not blocking anything, it's just there. It's kind of like the old, we implemented a firewall but left all the ports open or left any. So we we technically have a firewall. It's turned on. It's powered up. Same thing goes with EDR software. You can have it installed on every desktop, but not blocking, not set to block. Maybe you just left it transparent mode, and moved on to another project because you were short-staffed.
Yeah, you just didn't realize that it wasn't configured correctly.
And those are easy wins that you can come to the leadership team and do. Same thing with the 24/7 security monitoring. Putting some sort of, hiring some sort of MSSP to help manage that. It's a quick, easy win to give that visibility.
Do you think because this idea of misconfiguration and such like that, it does come up at least on the woke LinkedIn universe type of thing. like that's why I was just curious.
It happens all the time.
It does?
It does. I'll come in, again, I'm not going to mention names, but there's certain software that we had, set up. Again, it wasn't configured correctly. Again, I don't know that it was any fault. You had transition, you've got people too busy, you've got one project to another, they buy it, they install it. And so that's where I kind of push back on some of our partners and say, hey, aren't we going to quarterly business reviews? Don't you want us to continue using your software? So wouldn't you want to make sure it's configured correctly so that we're getting the most value out of it? Because if I stop using your software and move to something else, it may be the greatest software ever, but it's going to look bad on you because, again, we network closely. And so I'm going to let everyone else know, hey, we had challenges with this, but it wasn't fair. It's not your software. It's the way that we set it
configured,
up. But you should also hold us accountable for that because we don't know best practices for that specific system. You do.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I think about it from a product perspective, there's been this dearth of very, very good movement around that, right? Because they're 2 separate organizations. People just take that and then throw it under the customer success team, but that's not actually part of the product management organization. Right. And so that's where there's a lack of the responsibility, accountability for, it's misconfigured. Okay, it's fair, but now that's your problem.
Right. Yeah, and again, that's why, I'm huge on startups, but again, at some point, I'm sure most startups are going to exit and become a huge company. But you're right. When you move to a huge company, they move it to another team. That team doesn't really care. Maybe they don't have quotas or whatever. They just check in the boxes, and that is unfortunate. I have to reach out and ask for QBRs.
Yeah.
And I have to buy now the SaaS security posture management software, which will tell me, hey, you have XYZ EDR. You don't have it set up correctly. We plugged in. We can see that you don't have these 5 things set up. You need to go turn these on. Well, great. I'm going to do that.
But what would you suggest? Would you because I have my own point of view, but I'm curious. What would you suggest to help fix that gap?
Well, there's the paid way and the free way, right? And using.
Well, let's just maybe forgetting about cost, right?
The setting up of the QBRs are maybe even more frequent for, as you're going the monthly calls, if they're willing to do it, get an engineer from their company on and walking you through the panel, as long as they're not going to charge you professional services fees, which again blows my mind. Some of them do. I want to maximize.
I hate pro services, by the way.
Well, yes.
I hate pro. Yeah. I think it's the silliest thing where they're like, oh, by the way, you'd like to buy the product, sounds good, but also you have to buy all the services around it.
Right. Do you want me to use it or not? And that is a challenge. So I do feel for a lot of younger, CISOs or security folks when they come in and they buy all these tools and then they still have a breach, and then the leadership team looks at them like, what's the deal? We gave a couple $1 million to cyber, and yet, but they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a roadmap. They tried to install it all at once. Certainly, there are a lot of companies that have a very small cyber team.
Yeah.
And so there are companies now that will actually manage your tools for you as well. Maybe that's what you have to do. You have to pay an outsourced company to come manage all your tools for you.
I think like ease of use is important as well, right?
It is. Well, and I hate the AI buzzword, but as much as you can, get to where it's going to recommend things, where it's going to email me or notify me and say, hey, where there's a new feature or there's this new setting we realized you didn't have, implemented, turn it on. How hard is that? For you to run those checks, you have access to my tenant, as the vendor, and so why not you run those monthly checks, and say this is best practice. This is how you have it set up. Here's how you can change that. We have some tools that do that for us. They tell us how to self-remediate. They give us a step-by-step. And so I look at those as kind of the leaders and say, well, more and more should do that.
Giving you the look under the kimono. The look under the kimono is that people typically, out of every product manager I know, they want to build a net new feature rather than tell you how to reconfigure something or make what they have better.
Yes, and then when you turn that on, then they send you a bill for it. And they charge you for that module, and they want to nickel and dime you. So.
And sometimes, but by the way, it's also like sometimes it's not their fault. I will say it's the training. It's the idea that, like, for example, well, if I don't have that feature, I'm not going to be considered for the Gartner MQ. Which is weird to say, but
you're right, and I don't like that because I don't like pay to play. I just but I realize boards and other leadership teams do look to that. They look to it to say, hey, this is something that we can measure against, and there's a lot of those out there they can be measured against for the tool functionality. So you're right. That is very interesting that they want to play that game.
Yeah,
I wish they didn't have to because...
I mean, I personally have to deal with this all the time, right? So I can understand well, if we don't build this feature, we can make their product better, or do you want to do this? And so you almost have to make this business decision where it's like, do I want to be part of that, worksheet? Or because some people, that's how they buy products too. They have a list of 20 features. If you don't have that one on there, you're broken.
Yeah, that's true. When we as cyber teams, draft our RFP and what we're looking for and build the scope of the project, we have to know there's some things that have to be negotiable. We can't. There's no perfect product.
Perfect. Yeah. Because you may be able to do one part very well, but that may not be part of your requirements area.
And I've seen more and more companies that try to do everything great, and then they fall apart from the core. So I see stay with what you did. That was your core. That's what you were built for.
I think we do need to educate people about that, though. It's like if you're not good at what you actually do, that's worse than having 50 things that people don't use.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go buy 7 other companies and try to integrate them just so you can check those boxes. I've gotten rid of those products because of that, because then you forget why you were founded.
Yeah.
And then that falls apart. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. Small teams, you don't want 74 dashboards, but you know what? I would rather have that as long as each product is doing what it's supposed to do.
What it's supposed to, yeah. I mean, are you a best of breed kind of guy or platform guy?
Yeah, I'll give the political answer. It depends, but probably, I do like to look to best of breed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is that? Like, what makes that so? Is it just the same reason you gave earlier, or?
Yeah, it is. Again, I'd rather, if I have to buy a couple of different point products, I would rather that. I've been burned too many times buying kind of an all-in-one multi-purpose tool, and sometimes you have to do that at a smaller company. Sometimes that's all you can afford, and that's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if all you can have is Microsoft, for example, what are you going to do?
Yep. Then just take advantage of it and configure it as best you can. And I've been to some companies where you're right. That's all we can do, or use their suite of tools. And then at that point, I'm an open source fan. Let's go find some open source tools. Let's install some Linux servers and just throw some open source, OpenBOS or whatever for your vulnerability scanner. And use some free things. That's how you can get the program established and build that trust.
Do you think that when you participate so heavily in the RSA and everything, it's giving the confidence to go in? Because sometimes I look at you and I'm like, yeah, he knows all this stuff very, very, very well. What is it that builds that confidence?
I think a lot of it is I've had some really good mentors. I've had some really good bosses that have helped prepare me for, going in and speaking to the board. I do have an executive coach now that helps me from an executive presence standpoint.
Well, let's talk about those two things. One is the executive presence and executive coach. Why is that so important?
Because you shouldn't go in with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, you're going to kill yourself from the beginning if you just say that, we're going to get hacked if you don't buy this. Or you say, if we don't buy this, we're not going to meet this regulatory compliance. I mean, sometimes you have to, but if you're leading with that, you need to understand business risk. You need to understand what your company does to make money. You think it's silly, but a lot of people don't know. I didn't know, what Fortitude did to make money up until, probably about 6 months ago when I started reading this book. And it was like, here's an elevator list. If your CEO catches you in the elevator and asks you to explain what the company does, or, hey, take these people on a tour because they're potential investors, I couldn't actually tell them what we do to make money. And so, because we just get so sucked into the IT component, and so I think that helps with the confidence. If you can go into an executive meeting, a board meeting, and you understand it high level, you're not going to have the details, but understand high level what the business does and how they understand risk. Because obviously, healthcare, manufacturing, wherever you're at, obviously you've got risk, you've got foodborne illness, you've got slips and falls, you've got all kind of risk. Cyber is just another risk. And it's an insurance. The company wants to buy it, they want to invest in cyber, or they don't. That's their decision. They're going to have to deal with it later, pay me now or pay me later, but it's their decision as business leaders, some smart business leaders. And then, so if you come in very arrogant and saying, how dare, don't you want to protect the company? Don't you want to do this? Well, of course they do, but they also want to make money. They also want to invest in it. They also want to do this. And so,
So what would you recommend instead of saying, hey, you don't want to do this, like it's going to be risk, it's this, it's that? How would you, communicate that?
Well, I would say meet with some of meet with the CFO, meet with some of the financial folks first, but just going in and giving options. Hey, we've got this risk. We understand from the risk appetite of the company. You may want to accept it. Here's a couple of options that we think might be wise. Which direction would you like us to go? I think when you come in with that, you're giving them options. You're not telling them. Oh man, you're gonna earn their respect, and then they're gonna start looking to you to say, well, what do you recommend? And that's the sweet spot.
So do you think that's like one of your tips and tricks? Is like, hey, give people a few options, be like, hey, this is maybe what I recommend, but like, what do we think makes most sense? And here's like the grading of highest risk to least risk.
Yes, you've got to have it. You've got to use some sort of rating system that they understand in terms of giving it that.
Obviously, everyone is different on how they want that.
They do, and the risk appetite of every company is different. But if you go on and give them those options, and you can put it in dollar amount, that's going to help. And you know what? You also have to watch, and I have a hard time with this, watch your facial expressions, because you're going to get shut down, or you're going to get asked questions that may seem like condescending. And it's like, again, because these typically the board
members, what would be the most condescending question?
Well, like, why hasn't this already been taken care of? Or I thought we gave you that budget last year. And you have to, these are board members, they're dealing with multi-billion-dollar budgets and things. And so you just have to be, willing to respectfully answer those questions, and also say, I don't know, which can be intimidating in front of 10 or 12 very highly educated people, board members or or executives.
You think that like paint the scenario? It's like, hey, you're in front of the board and but usually is this happening at the board meeting, or maybe before with just the CFO and the CEO, or how is it kind of?
Yeah, doing it to smaller committees of the board is smarter first, and getting their feedback. Depending on how your board is structured. And same thing with the exco, meeting with, a subset, you're exactly right, CFO and maybe some others ahead of time, and going through that, getting their options. They're going to save you on that. They're going to help steer you in the right direction ahead of time. And so you may actually cancel and not even go in and say, hey, that was on the agenda, but now that I've gotten this feedback, I need to pull it for the next meeting or something until I can gather some more information, because you do not want to go in there and not have the right information to present your topics.
So let's just say you have your slide.
Right.
Is it usually an ask, or is it usually like a report, or is it usually like just a how is everything going kind of thing? Like, what is it?
It's usually just a how's everything going, Okay. And so if we have to rate ourselves, and most board members work at other companies where they also follow the NIST framework, and so you can say, here's the score we've been given, or that we've given ourselves based on the NIST categories. And here are the three biggest risks we see as a company in the last quarter. And here's what, here's the three largest, incidents that have occurred in the last quarter across the industry, other companies that have had incidents. And here's how we might be addressing that. It's just being open and transparent with them, and communicating in between the meetings. If you do, the biggest thing that I've learned recently too is proactive. Read the Wall Street Journal, read these other news sources, because when they see something on the weekend, if you don't proactively send a note out and say, hey, we know you probably saw this SharePoint, hack in the news recently. We aren't impacted, and here's what we're doing to
So you think that that proactiveness, it helps build the credibility, or
it does, because they're asking the question of all their companies. They want to know that they're on the board. Is this a whole?
Yeah, the SharePoint one is
because they're liable. Board members are liable now, right? They've signed off on that, and they are liable for the posture of the company overall. And so they want to make sure you have to know to not spam them. So it better be something huge. But something like that, just being proactive, I think that goes a long way in building that trust, and then not wasting their money. You say that cliche, but We've given you XYZ dollars to buy products. You can come back to us and ask for more.
But do you usually ask them, or do you usually ask the finance?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I don't go to the board with the decisions. That's all made locally.
Yours are made locally, exactly. And do you think that, like, because it's so interesting, because I think a lot of people talk about this stuff, but they're not getting into the detail that you are right now. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's all fluff, or going to reading a book, or going to a conference. Yeah, I mean, I live and breathe it.
It's very LinkedIn influencer.
Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother story. Wow.
Why is that story?
I don't know. I mean, LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, obviously, but yeah, you're right. They're just like any social media platform. There are some people I see that post on there just to get the clicks. I mean, and they are, high-level security folks, but I don't know how much of it is practical.
There's like a I mean, so in putting out from a founder lens, like, I think I am in cybersecurity, but I would say, like, my core skill strengths is really not in running a cyber program. That's not my strength.
No, that's a great point. And same thing about a lot of people ask me why I'm not doing consulting, and I said that's not. I wouldn't be, or like the whole VC stuff thing, and I'm like, I wouldn't be good at it. I want to come into a company. I want to have my hands in it. I want to see results. I want to help shape that company, and so I just don't think I would be a good consultant.
Exactly, and so then that's where, because you want to be the one executing. If you're just telling people what to do, it's not exciting.
No, and then you walk away, and then a year later you see they get hacked because they didn't follow it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Because you gave them the plan, but they didn't follow it, or, they had financial constraints or what have you. But no, you're right. So the getting the hands on and building the plans. I see so many CISOs or security leaders fail because they just go in and they just have all the tools. They just say, I want all this money. They buy all the tools, they hire the people, and they don't have a roadmap. And because that's not the cool, sexy stuff. Nobody likes paperwork. You don't like doing policies and procedures. Who likes
that stuff?
Who likes building PowerPoints? I'm horrible at it, by the way. I love AI for helping with that. But, being able to build the roadmap, very simple. Here's what we want to do, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. That it's going to change. And aligning that, looking at the business objectives and making sure that every project aligns to a business goal. That's, nobody likes to do that stuff, but that's how you get the trust and the buy-in.
So like, you would recommend, essentially, go in, have a little bit more of a option-based plan for people when you're asking for things. I think it's a great advice point.
Yeah, and then there's that whole, you got to build relationships internal to IT, because when you come in, typically the teams don't like you. You're big brother.
The IT versus
you're point out their failures, which that's what they feel like, you're pointing out their failures, and you're being big brother. You're saying you don't have this set up right, and why did you do this? And so I've been super guilty of not doing that well. Just coming in, and it feels like I'm pointing out all their failures because it's impacting me. Like, you're going to break security. But so trying to be a partner with them, trying to stand beside them and help fix things that are broke. And not just saying, here's a pen test, fix everything on here. It's not going to work. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, I mean, as we're like going through this one's turning off, by the way, I got to ask you one question is like, what makes you so excited about being in here? And like, what would you tell someone who wants to be in your position one day?
Again, it sounds corny, but I've always wanted to help people. I thought, maybe I was going to be like a police officer or something. I mean, I love helping people. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, we're kind of doing the same thing, but for cyber on the infrastructure side. I love helping companies. There's something different that you get to do every day.
Yeah.
You get to touch every part of technology being in cyber. And then also the volunteer stuff. I mean, ultimately, if I retire someday, I want to help on the, going to the old folks' homes, helping educate parents and teachers on this internet,
safety stuff and everything. Yeah.
So I love that component. I love that aspect of it. But really, you're helping the company. You're in investigations all the time, whether it's internal or external. You're seeing, potential things that happen within the company from a cyber standpoint. And so you're helping them to be successful. I think that's
you are very helpful, man. And I gotta say, like, you've helped us so much with Dope as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get back. If we want good companies, we have to be good partners. I know it's, being people say it, you got to have a partnership, but good luck if you don't.
Yeah, and I mean,
with a big company.
But what made you like Dope so much?
It met an immediate need that we couldn't find anybody else to do, right? So in terms of, the latency and the things we were seeing with our other, solutions that we're doing, the secure web gateway and the challenges we had with that, being able to do it all on the client, 4 to 5 times faster. We just love that. The flexibility, the ease of install.
Yeah.
Again, we talk about, the other interfaces are so complex. You have to have a team of people to consider it. And again, this policy supersedes this, and it's not supposed to be blocking that. It's supposed to be doing this. And like, I don't have the time for that.
Yeah. How willing?
We don't have enough people. And we need a simple tool with a simple interface, but yet it has the same results or even better.
It's like music to my ears, because Dude, I've been working on this for a long time, and I really, really appreciate you, like, making the intros, helping with everything, and being a good partner as well, like saying, hey, this is where you could do better as well.
You got to be honest, otherwise.
Well, this was like super insanely fun, man.
Yep.
Is there anything that you would do that you would tell someone who wants to be in your position one day, that really wants to go in and be the CISO of Fortitude, for example?
I would say a couple of things. One is you got to be humble, and two is you can't do it right out of college. It took me 20 years to get where I'm at, and so I think a lot of people are frustrated with the instant everything society, the click in the app and it fixes a thing. You've got to be humble. You got to be humble. I would start at the help desk, which is where I started. You've got to dig in, help out in the baseline, and then you'll when you do stuff that people see without being asked, when you automate, when you ask how you can help with things that aren't part of your job description, you're going to be noticed, and you'll be promoted, and you'll be sought out for those roles.
Asking, how can I help you today?
Yes, and not saying it's not part of my role or it's not part of my job, but doing it in a respectful way, not overstepping your bounds or stepping into somebody else's area.
Yeah, I mean, there's like this new age of CISOs that I really think that you're, kind of leading the pack, if you will, is that you know this stuff, you understand it backwards and forwards, right?
Yeah, and I think that's because I started in help desk and sysadmin, and I was on that side of the house. So I worked my way up. I didn't just come out of college with theory and say I'm going to be a cyber pro. I had no idea actually when I left college that's what I was going to do.
Right. But man, like, dude, again, super appreciate it. Epic time.
Yep.
We'll see you again here in Nashville.